One inequality that stood out to me in Charles Dickens' Little Dorrit was classism, which is discrimination based on social class, and that benefits the upper class and degrades the lower class. It is known as one of the largest social problems in the world today. Classism is also among every race, unlike racism that is historically known to target a certain race. It primarily deals with poverty, which is where unfortunately most immigrants fall into when trying to find the American dream that most immigrants talk about. It hurts our society as a whole due to how mistreated those in poverty are, and the numbers statistically showing that when one generation of a family is in poverty, the next has a pretty high chance of also going into poverty due to classism. It is a consistent problem that does not seem like it's going to change anytime soon. Steve Pinker quoted, "Much of what is today called social criticism consists of members of the upper classes denouncing the taste of the lower classes, whether that be their entertainment or fast food or plentiful consumer goods, while considering themselves egalitarians, claiming that they care about each side." This shows that classism will not go away due to how normalized it's become. People do not realize the extremities that result from it because the people that are spreading this classism are made up of those who are in the upper class and don't see the real problem firsthand. Another quote that I wanted to add on to that is from the article "The Coming War Won't Be About Race" by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and reads, "Yes, I'm aware that it is unfair to paint the wealthiest with such broad strokes. There are a number of super rich people who are also super supportive of their community. Humbled by their own success, they reach out to help others. But that's not the case with the multitude of millions and billionaires who lobby to reduce food stamps, give no relief to the burden of student debt on our young, and kill extensions of unemployment benefits." This expresses the fact that it is indeed the rich upper class being selfish and voting to reduce food stamps, in which most families, not most, but most families living in poverty depend on those for survival and to live everyday life. Classism has been around for many generations, and I can see this by the fact that it was presented significantly as a problem in the novel Little Dorrit, which was set in the 1850s. It is shown throughout the entire novel of each character with the need of having to present to other people their own social rank in order to gain respect and power in their communities. For example, William Dorrit, the father of Amy Dorrit, otherwise known as Little Dorrit in the novel, is known as the father of the Marshalsea, which is the debtor's prison where one goes when they cannot pay their own debt due to being in poverty. Visitors who come in and people who are in this prison as inmates are expected to pay tribute to acknowledge his status. He eventually begins to get frustrated with Amy for becoming friends with inmates such as Maggie, who has special needs, only because this makes his superior social rank look bad when others see his daughter being with someone like Maggie. Once William Dorrit receives his inheritance that frees him of his debt and makes him rich, he spends the rest of his life traveling abroad, showing off his upper class and his money and his richness, and hiding the fact that he was ever poor, in prison, or even in debt. A quote by Lorraine Berry in How the Literary Class System is Impoverishing Literature says, "When my relatives knew people who had come into money and had chosen to move away, or to buy an expensive thing like a fancy car, there was always rumbling about those people thinking they were better than we are or forgetting where they really came from." This relates back to Mr. Dorrit significantly because he is seen traveling abroad and showing off his upper class rank in that society, while knowing that he was also once poor and in prison, just like those who were inmates with him. This kind of shows that he no longer really cares for the inmates there, even though he was once just like them. Another aspect of how important these characters' social rank mattered to them was Mr. Myrtle. He was a very wealthy businessman, and he ended up tricking and manipulating many people by being a fraud and taking their money and telling them that they will make money off of it once they give it to him. Once he messed up and lost all of the money in which they trusted him with, he finally decided to commit suicide because he basically could not live with himself due to the fact that he'd be exposed for his fraudulent actions that would bring down his social rank in society and make him look like a failure. This novel ultimately shows how far people will go in order to have money for themselves to look good in front of others. Another example is Fanny Dorrit, Amy's older sister. She married Edmund Sparkler just because she wanted the wealth with his money and to raise her social rank. We see this today in marriages that basically end up in divorces occurring because of this classism that they go after this rich guy or rich woman, and just because they have money, just to make them look good. And ultimately, that doesn't work out because real meaning of marriage is love and not money. Amy Dorrit is seen as a model type character to be in this novel because of her views and actions that took place. Money really didn't seem like it affected her in any way, like it didn't change her. And she also cared for those in prison by becoming friends with inmates and even educating some. She was also extremely devoted to her brother and sister and basically became a parent to them in a way. She also at times chose not to eat just so her father could, even though her father wasn't appreciative of anything she was doing and really she was basically taken for granted for everything she was doing for her family. But at the end of the day, we noticed that she didn't really get mad at it, but truly it brings out her true colors of who she is and what she stands for. Although Amy is looked at as a saint in a way, people like her do in fact, and they do exist today and are trying to help those in poverty. For instance, there are many charities and programs set up for the lower class that are having a hard time to get on their feet and start making a living in order to sustain life. But sometimes these may not be adequate for those who are disabled or have drug addictions that aren't treated, or it could be too expensive to treat them and such. Or even at times trying to figure out a way to work while also having children at home who need nurturing and need their mom, or if it's a single dad or single mom, you can't really leave their children at home without having to pay the expenses of a babysitter. Overall, I think classism is still a rising problem in today's society that needs to be addressed in order to overcome this historic problem, or else it's something that's going to keep occurring and keep pushing down the lower class, and everything will stay the same.